Okay, good morning, my friends. My name is Darren Gerdes. I'm just a professor trying to provide context in the war in Ukraine. It is Thursday, March 27th, 2025, and this is the Daily Brief. So, in my quest to provide context to you, I'm going to show you a real Ukrainian hero and what he has done on the battlefield and how, what the battlefield's actually like. You'll see this in just a moment. Let's start here with 1,670 Russians off the battlefield day over day. That's a fairly high number when we compare that against what we've seen in March. The average is 1,280 in March, and if we go down here, 1,670, you can't get anywhere near 1,670 all of March. You have to go back to the 16th of the previous month in order to actually get something close to that. So the high number of casualties is pretty striking today. 8 tanks, 16 armored fighting vehicles, 58 artillery systems, and 169 vehicles and fuel tanks. Now, this is very high. Usually when the numbers are low, these numbers here are higher, and that's because now you have drone operators that have something, they have some free time on their hands. They're going after more vehicles and fuel tanks. Usually when these numbers are high, this is a little bit lower because they're actively engaged on the battlefield. They're not just hunting for vehicles. Okay, so that's that. Let's look at the number of Shahed drones launched last night. 86 Shaheds and an Iskander ballistic missile. In total, there are 42 drones shot down, 26 suppressed by electronic warfare. That means that a bunch of them got through, and there's no Iskander ballistic missile here being shot down. So now we see the effects of that here. 3 people injured in Dnipro, where more than a dozen high-rise buildings are damaged. We see that there. We also see 13 people injured in Russian drone strikes in Kharkiv. The attack lasted for almost an hour, and more than 10 explosions are reported. And again, Dnipro and other places. Okay, so now what's interesting about this is that the general staff confirmed, now this was a week ago, this was on the 20th, so today's the 27th. The Ukraine general staff confirmed that they struck the Engels 2 air base on March 20th, destroying 96 air-launched cruise missiles, including from secondary detonations. These were meant for 3 missile strikes in March and April. Fuel storage was also hit, further crippling Russia's combat capabilities. But these, if they hadn't done this, these would have been far worse. These other strikes, because there would, or not necessarily today, but other strikes would have been far worse, doing a lot more damage. So this was a good hit last week, and it's the kind of thing Ukraine keeps targeting things like this, like military armaments or oil depots or things that actually have some lasting value that will have a multiplying effect, where the Russians just keep targeting civilians for some reason I can't quite understand. Okay, Zelensky, this is saying that Russia is preparing for a new offensive on Sumy and Kharkiv regions, that they can see what's coming. This is a French publication where he's talking about this. They can see with their technology, see where the Russians are massing or moving armaments or things along those lines. It's probably going to be in Sumy and Kharkiv as the next big wave. But for now, let's just look at the Russian battlefield, because the battlefield is going to tell us quite a bit of what's going on. And I used Pokrovsk, and I've done this intensity thing where I show all the places across the battlefield, how many attacks over time. But Pokrovsk is the one that's like the bellwether for me. In Pokrovsk direction, Russian invaders led 87 assaults. This is a high number. This is a high number for Pokrovsk, let alone any time recently. This is one of the highest numbers of assaults on Pokrovsk that I've ever seen. 87. That's very, very high. And again, there's a correlation here between the number here and the number 87 assaults here. Okay. Let's look at this. Ukrainian forces destroyed the command post of the 9th Motorized Rifle Regiment of Russia's 18th Motorized Rifle Division in Kursk region in the Russian Federation. The commander of the 1st Battalion of the 9th Motorized Rifle Regiment was killed in the process. And then, I told you I would introduce you to a real Ukrainian hero. Maxim Kuzmenko is chief sergeant of a UAV battalion. So he's in charge of the drone operators. And you would think that being a drone operator would be a reasonably safe kind of activity because you're kind of in the back. But you remember those drones, when they come back, there are other drones trying to follow those drones to see where they are so they can go kill the drone operators. And both sides are doing the same thing. One of the units under Mac's command came under bombardment. A guided aerial bomb made a direct hit on a shelter at a combat position where our drone pilots were stationed. They were buried under the rubble. There were casualties and severely wounded soldiers. They were practically buried alive. Every minute mattered, but helping them was impossible because the position was under heavy fire and monitored by enemy FPV drones. So while they're trying to dig these guys out, other FPV drones are watching and or trying to drop munitions on you at the same time while you're trying to get your comrades out. Higher command refused to give permission for a rescue operation. Max told everyone to go to blank, and he went to the site himself. He cleared the debris while under fire during the rescue. An FPV drone struck nearby, causing him shrapnel wounds. But even that didn't stop him. In the end, he saved the lives of 5 of his brothers in arms and extracted the bodies of the fallen. So, like, that's pretty hardcore, right? So that's what he was doing. Now, moreover, when he returned to the dislocation point, he didn't go to the hospital. He asked a friend to remove the shrapnel with a knife and went back to the front to avenge his fallen brothers. This man had already received the highest awards, including those personally presented by the president, but I believe he deserves far more. Like, that, this guy sounds like something. Okay. Maxim Kuzmenko is one of those heroes whose name we proudly honor in response to the resounding cry, "Glory to Ukraine." And Alex Bond, who posted all this, and Alex Bond, I'm not terribly familiar with him, but he's followed by a half dozen or dozen folks that I trust implicitly. So Maxim deserves to be awarded with the highest award, the Hero of Ukraine. And he's tagging Zelensky and the general staff with that. But that's a story, right? And so this guy deserves some respect, right? Okay. Just wanted to help provide context for you in this. Okay, let's look at some political news. Ukraine agreed to a ceasefire to expose Russia's true intentions, Zelensky says. So why are they agreeing to these things? These terms seem pretty bad. Well, because Russia's not going to honor them. Middle Eastern nations believe that Putin was ready for peace, while Ukraine was not, thanks to Russian propaganda. Now it is clear Putin isn't ready. This shift has brought new diplomatic engagement from previously neutral countries, Zelensky says. And then here's Anders Puck Nielsen talking about the U.S. really misunderstands the aims of the war. We should be thinking of it in very different terms, and we're thinking in terms of borders, but that's not how Russia's thinking about it. Let's listen to him.
The biggest flaw in the American analysis of the situation is that this is a war about defining a border. They can just agree on a border, then we can end the war. But that's not what the war is about. What the war is about, the political control of all of Ukraine. And Russia wants the political control of all of Ukraine. Russia wants to, in one way or another, push Ukraine in a direction where politically it will be ungovernable, and eventually there will be some kind of puppet regime taking power in Kiev. So they will try to get all kinds of conditions that will make that happen. And of course, Ukraine is fighting for sovereignty, for being an independent country, and being free from all Russian influence.
Right. I mean, so that distinction there is really, really significant, and we're kind of missing it. This is another interesting nuance here. After the U.S. halted satellite intel to Ukraine, the importance of tech sovereignty has never been clearer. In an interview with Stanislaw Dalek, we discuss how European future security and Ukrainian recovery depend on independent, high-tech capabilities. That's where they have to move, because the threat is just you just can't fool me once, right? I mean, they've now realized, we can't be dependent like that. Ukraine filed criminal charges of genocide incitement against top Russian propagandist Solyov. One of Russia's most prominent state TV hosts called for nuclear strikes on civilian targeting in Ukraine. I'm not sure that they'll be able to get anything out of that, but I mean, he's just a propagandist. Okay. This is the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Russia, which Zakharova is saying Russia has repeatedly presented substantiated refutations of the numerous fakes about Bucha. She's still saying that. I mean, it's just remarkable that she's still saying that. Here's another video of Russia's donkey frontline logistics operations. I'm not sure how a donkey will hold up against a drone, but I'm pretty sure that it's not going to go well for the donkey. And here's some video of drones being attacked by other FPV drones. And I'll leave you with this. He lost his limbs, but not his will. That's Ukrainian resilience. This guy's lost 3 limbs fighting for Ukraine. And wow. And yet he's got a smile on his face as he's figuring out how to walk again and how to operate normally in life. Like, that's something. All right, my friends, I'll leave you with that. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the likes, the shares, and the subscribes. And thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.